You see, something is going to happen. Something wonderful.
My God, it's full of stars.
Welcome to the NY Patriot Show. In this episode, I got Megan from 7 Degrees back on with me. I was very much looking forward to working with her again, especially on this and on a couple other upcoming ideas that I've had that hopefully will happen. But it's always a pleasure to have her on. It's always nice to have on another magician to talk to about this stuff, you know. I don't have to do it alone. So I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you very much for coming on, Megan.
Anytime.
Again, just in case people don't know who you are, but I mean, I think I've had so much stuff with you on it already in the recent, couple of months. They should know who you are already. But if not, please let them know what's up.
Yeah. So my name is Megan, and I am 7 Degrees of Wisdom. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So we'll have Nick put my channel down in the comments below. But just really briefly, I'm a practicing occultist, professional intuitive tarot reader, paranormal investigator, spiritual and paranormal consultant. And I also offer classes and tarot readings and all that stuff. You guys could find me through all my social media for that.
I'm glad you called yourself an occultist, because I had somebody comment one time recently on like an Instagram post, and it was just really weird because it was like another podcast that I've been on their show and they've been on my show. And I guess they knew I had left the OTO, but they didn't know I was an occultist. And I was like, we were having a conversation on fucking Instagram, which is horrible to begin with, in the comments, and I'm like, yeah, I'm an occultist. And they're like, oh, I've just never heard anybody else call themselves that before. And I'm like thinking in my head, probably because you haven't actually met a real one. Because real ones actually will come out and be like, yeah, I'm an occultist. Because like to you, that's just mean like a mystic, the same thing. I'm just looking for hidden knowledge. It's nothing bad.
Yes, that's the whole point of this. It's our life. It's our whole life.
I'm thinking you probably know a bunch of them. They're just behind a microphone and they don't want to tell people they're an occultist.
Yeah. No, I'll straight up tell you. I don't have a problem telling you that.
Yeah. I'm just like, what's the big fucking deal? It's a big deal. Yeah, no, it's just like, even in today's day and age, it's like when you start to look at what the actual word means. If we all want to talk about being educated and knowing, if just knowing what that word means in itself, there's nothing negative, to it.
Exactly. It's over time, it's been demonized by the church.
Like the last show I was just on, I said, like, I don't know how the inside of my body works. That's occult knowledge to me. I literally can't see it. My eyes are looking out of my head, not inside. I can't see how my body works. That's occult knowledge. Does that mean it's bad? I just don't understand how all these organs and everything are pumping and moving right now.
Yep. But they are. They exist. They're there.
That's why Dahmer was cutting people open, just to make sure.
Yeah. I like it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, that is Megan. Thank you very much again for coming on.
Anytime, man.
Yeah.
I love doing this.
Your links will be in the bottom, and this time I'll make sure I include your YouTube. I totally forgot to add it to the notes since you started the channel. And definitely go check out her YouTube, please. Everybody that listens and, whatever, even if you don't follow my YouTube, go follow hers.
Thank you, guys. I got a lot of paranormal content, tarot content.
I love it.
Just intro. If you're starting out on the magical path, I got a lot of intro information for you. So, yes. But I got a lot of paranormal stuff on there. So
nice. And we should hopefully be doing a Zodiac series too, I think, with Marion.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, yes. That's going to be fun.
And covering that one lady's artwork. I already forgot her name, a saint of the church who was an occultist. We're going to cover her artwork too, so that's going to be fun. Yes. When I sent that to Mario, he was even like, yo, I've never seen this before, but this is really interesting.
Yes, it's
some of that I was like, yo, this almost looks like a Thoth tarot card.
That's what I was going to say. Like, if you look at that, you're like, oh my God, this looks so much like a Thoth tarot deck. It does, that Crowley made.
I know. I was like, interesting. It's wild.
Yeah.
But, talking about old stuff, we were going to go over the Grimoire, the Armadel. I know it sounds a lot like the Armadel, and it does, I think it does have the Armadel in it anyway.
It does. I'll get to that.
Yes, I'll let you get to
all the
that.
info on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, I mean, I'll put the pictures up now. I'll probably go through them a little bit as we're talking. So for people who are watching, at some point you'll get to see, like, what the books look like and different ones, because there was, I think, 2 different versions that I have to show. And it has also been translated by McGregor Mathers. And that was back in, I think it was, it wasn't actually, it's really not that old of a book when you go by the translation into English. No. And a
couple different theories on 16th or 17th century.
Yeah. But real quick, something that I wanted to at least cover a little bit. Again, McGregor Mathers translated it at some point. And some people may not really know much about him. And I think he is somebody who's worth looking into. And,
definitely.
And he's another example, like, a lot of times, like, even in the magic community, and I'm sure, like, you've even seen it yourself, Megan, like, Blavatsky, Gurdjieff, Crowley. I mean, listen, I'm not going to knock them. They were occult geniuses, but they also got their shit from somewhere else. And it's like sometimes people don't look much past farther than the people that were, only 100 or 200 years ago prevalent. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I think, like, the thing about Mathers is, like, looking into what inspired him could start taking you down some interesting rabbit holes. So not that I'm going that far with that, but I just do think he is a character that, if people don't know much about, he is definitely worth, I think, looking into and seeing where he pulled his ideas and who he was influenced by and what stuff was he reading,
Yeah.
But to just cover him a little bit, Samuel Liddell McGregor Mathers, he was born Samuel Liddell Mathers, was a British occultist and a member of the SRIA, that is the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, something like that, Rosicrucian Society of England. He is primarily known as one of the founders of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a ceremonial magic order of which offshoots still exist. He became so synonymous with the Order of the Golden Dawn that the scholar Israel Regardie observed it in retrospect that he pretty much, it was pretty much his. But, I'm sure there was other influences,
Yeah.
Mathers added that McGregor surname as a claim to Highland Scottish heritage. He was a practicing vegetarian, or according to some people, he might have been a vegan. He was outspoken against. An outspoken anti-vivisectionist. Now, I'm assuming they're saying like he was against vivisection. Which that could make sense. And for some people who don't know what that is like basically experimenting on animals. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, maybe it might be specifically dogs, but I do know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, vivisection, I think, is something to do with, like, animals. Skinny Puppy. The only reason I even know this, Skinny Puppy has an album that I think is called Vivisection. And I happen to, like, look into, like, what, first off, just the names of their songs are so weird. You just start Googling or looking things up. And I was like, oh, this is actually, like, something that was real. And then I realized the whole album was basically talking about and, telling people, stop practicing shit on animals. So
yeah, I'm
assuming that's what a vivisection is.
Quit being a dick.
Huh? Yeah,
Quit being a dick.
God, I went and met Mike from Hush Hush out in Yale not too long ago just to film some stuff because we were going to try to do like a little documentary on the secret societies out there. And he was like showing me some medical place that he had worked not too far from a while ago. And like they were doing experiments, doing something on rats. And he said every day they were wheeling out like these cages of just tons of dead ones and taking new ones right back in.
Oh, God.
Every day, he said. While he was working, I think he was like doing construction next door. He said for the whole time that he was there, he saw that every day he worked.
God.
The crazy thing is, it's just like, I guess maybe sometimes maybe for magicians and not so much religious people, maybe we'll look at that as being like a little bit more wilder, because like to me it's like I don't look at it as like animals not having a soul.
They do have a soul.
Yeah, so it's just like when you're just like mass like cultivating souls like that too, that's just weird to me, you know.
Well, it's gonna open.
Or like some sort of like release of energy or something. It's just very weird.
Yes.
Not to get so off. Sorry, get off topic over here.
It's all about intention, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
All right, so back to McGregor Mathers. It is known that his main interests were magic and the theory of war, and his first book being a translation of a French military manual, and it was a practical instruction in infantry campaigning exercise. So I find that interesting that his first book was actually like something to do with the French and military.
Mm-hmm.
Mathers was introduced to Freemasonry, supposed by a neighbor who was alchemist Frederick Holland, and was initiated into Hengist Lodge number 195 on the 4th of October in 1877. He was raised as a master mason on the 30th of January in 1878. In 1882, he admitted to the Metropolitan College of the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, as well as a number of fringe Masonic degrees. Working for SRIA now, which is the thing I just mentioned before, he was awarded an honorary 8th degree in 1886, and in the same year, he lectured on the Kabbalah to the Theosophical Society. So that's interesting, because that's like kind of like Blavatsky stuff.
Yep.
After his mother died, he moved to London, where he lived at Great Percy Street on King Cross. He was appointed as an assistant to a librarian, as an assistant librarian to Annie Horniman's father, Frederick Horniman, founder of the Horniman Museum and an affluent tea importer. So I included that because, I mean, even though, like, I don't know, maybe he wasn't living the life of lavish, or maybe he was already, makes it sound like he wasn't. I mean, he still came in contact with somebody that was rather important in some sort of degree of separation there,
Yeah.
And that's like something that I've even noticed, and it's going to be something I'm going to be covering in like other things, like other people from the past. It's like when you start like, even like these like little names that you might be reading and be like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. And that was so long ago, who cares? When it talks about the relationships or people they were corresponding with, look those people up, and half the time you're like, yo, these were fucking important people. Why the hell were you talking to magicians or known occultists? It's just very weird.
All the dots get connected, man. When you start going down these rabbit holes, like, you find out that they're all connected.
And like a lot of people say that about Crowley, especially during World War II, how they think, he seemed to be almost like kind of bouncing around with both, maybe playing both sides. And, you see him bounce around the world, even like John Dee. You saw John Dee bounce around the world a lot. It's like, this isn't like anything new. Like, occultists from back, 1,000 years ago, or a long time, or the 1200s or the 1300s. It's like,
yes,
if you start looking into it, it's like they've always had ties. There's always been rich, powerful people very interested in what they have to say. Put it that way.
Yes.
There always is.
Yes.
There's always ties to somebody. Especially, I think if you know your shit and you're real, there will be in these elaborate stories that they have.
Yeah, totally agree.
But Mathers married Minnie Bergson on June 16th, 1890 at Chicombe in Oxfordshire by Reverend W.A. Ayton, who was a prominent alchemist and member of the Golden Dawn. The Mathers lived in Stent Lodge in Forest Hill, but due to poverty, they moved to central London and began to live on Annie Horniman's charity. He became a celebrant of Metropolitan College in 1891 and was appointed as junior substitute magus of the SRIA in 1892, in which capacity he served until 1900. He left the order in 1903, having failed to repay money which he had borrowed. In 1887, Mathers was approached by Westcott to flesh out the ritual outlines of the cipher manuscript, into fully functional initiation ceremonies and asked to join in a triumvirate of chiefs for Westcott's new creation, the esoteric order, the Golden Dawn, which was founded on March 1st, 1888. Mathers signed the charter for Isis Urania Temple number 3 as, excuse me if I say this wrong, premonstrator. From 1888 to 1891, the Golden Dawn was primarily a theoretical school which performed the initiation ceremonies of the Outer Order and taught its members the basics of Hermeticism, but no practical magic other than the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. This changed when Mathers' creation of the Second Order, wherein the theoretical knowledge taught in the Outer Order was put into active magical practice by those initiates who achieved the grade of Adeptus Minor and above. In 1891, Mathers assumed leadership of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn up until the death of William Robert Woodman. He moved with his wife to Paris on the 21st of May, 1892. After his expulsion from the Golden Dawn in April of 1900, Mathers formed a group in Paris in 1903 called Alpha et Omega, and its headquarters were the Hathor Temple. And Mather chose the title Archon Basilius. In December of 1891, Dr. Woodman died, and no one was chosen to take his place in the Golden Dawn's ruling triad. It was around this time that Mathers finished a magnificent ritual for the 5 equals 6 degree, the 5th degree, however I don't know how they actually explain the whole 5 equals 6, but the Adeptus Minor grade, the first grade of the second or inner order of the Order Rose Rube et Ore Crucis, also called the RR et AC, which I should have just called it that, or the Order of the Rose of Ruby and the Cross of Gold. With the creation of a functional second order, Mathers accomplished a restructuring of the order and became its primary chief. Admission to the second order was gained by invitation as well as examination. The work of the second order was extensive. Members were required to make and consecrate several magical implements. Mathers created a curriculum and a series of 8 examinations which led up to the subgrade of Theoricus Adeptus Minor. He was also responsible for writing several of the second order's most important manuscripts, including the Z formula documents concerning the symbolism of the neophyte ceremony and the 5 systems of magic, which would be including invocation, talisman, consecration, transformations, divination, and alchemy, that known collectively as the magic of light. Through his research at the British Library, he gained an extensive knowledge of Egyptology as well as Dr. John Dee's Enochian work. He incorporated Enochian magic into the second order curriculum, expanding Dee's original workings into a potent system of magical work, supposedly. In the spring of 1892, the Mathers moved to Paris and set up the Hathor Temple No. 7. Dr. Westcott became the chief of the order in England. From Paris, Mathers continued to create new material for the ever-expanding curriculum of the Second Order, but he also pursued other interests such as Jacobite politics. In 1898, Samuel and Moyna began working on a series of Egyptian ritual dramas, The Rites of Isis, which he performed for the public numerous times on the stage of the Theatre Bandiere on Rue Saint-Lazare. That's all I really have for him. I didn't want to go too much into his personal life after that, but I just thought that was enough to let some people know who this guy was, how important was he, what kind of impact he had on the Golden Dawn. One thing that I find that's actually very interesting is that him and Crowley supposedly had their tiffs and their differences. Supposedly had, I don't know, magical battles out in the street, whatever, saying things and throwing up gang signs or who knows, whatever they were doing out there. You're both like throwing up the fucking, like, what are you doing to me? You hear these stories.
We didn't say we were a little bit not gone, right? Because you fucking have to be a little bit gone to be. You have to be insane to your craft, right?
I do. No, I think you're very right on that. Blavatsky even says that in a certain way, I think too. But so they did have like the differences. But one thing I do think is that if you take how he wanted to change the order and how he made it very much more regimented, is very much the way the Astrum Argentum is, and it's very much the way it's suggested to be in the OTO as well. So, like, you even do see, like, their styles or suggested studies to an extent, or kind of like, almost like an outline of work, of how to do the work. Mm-hmm. Very similar, very similar, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere,
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's all I had on him. If you want, you can cover a little bit about the book, and I'll go through some of the slides as you're talking to.
Yeah. So, I got my resources from a few different places. I always like to cross-reference when I'm doing research on this. The Grimoire of Armadel, and I'm not going to go try and pronounce its 13-word original title.
Yeah. Don't.
It is in Latin, which I can pick out a few of what the words mean because I know some Spanish, and Spanish comes from Latin. But I'm not going to try and pronounce that, guys.
No, it's all right.
I'm not going to do it.
I've even said this before. Some old grimoires or old manuscripts, it was like, the titles were so long. Like, why did you even want to name the title of your book that long?
Maybe.
Like, I'm not even trying to make my episode titles that long. It filled the whole page.
They're just trying to cover the whole thing.
That's it. You never know. Well, they're like, screw it. I got this whole page to use. I might as well use it.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
You might be on this. It's so funny. It could be as simple as that, right? I got this paper. I might as well use it. Yeah.
They're always a full page. Maybe they were just trying to fill the page. And, so they didn't have to draw some much ornate shit all over them to make them look full.
That's great. I love it.
But, okay, so it's a minor 17th century French Christian grimoire kept in the Bibliothèque des Arsenaux in Paris. It was translated into English by MacGregor Mathers and first published in 1980 after his death. It should not be confused with British Library's manuscript Lands 1202 as the key of King Solomon by Armadel, Book 4. The spirit was governed under the orders of the sovereign creator. It's also not to be confused with the Arbatel, or the Almadel. So the Almadel, which is the fourth book of Lemegeton of the Lesser Key of Solomon, and the Arbatel, which is a grimoire of planetary magic derived from the occult teachings of Paracelsus. So I did find,
which
when
we did cover prior.
This,
and you did, and I think you did a great case at showing your idea and opinion on who was.
Yeah, I came up with some theories there. Yes, that one. So these are all very connected. So I'll get to that, but I just kind of wanted to throw something out there. So
go for it.
I'm just going to tell a story really quick, and then I'm going to put forth one of my theories. It's just an idea that I had. I'm not saying that I'm right. I did Google it. One person said the same thing I did, but anyway. So my mentor, she's older, and so we were talking about. I have a class that I do on divinations, and we were in it. And some of my research, I quoted some Bible verses. Well, we got to talking about that, and she knows way more about that stuff than I do. And so she was like translating these verses and chapters for me. And then it dawned on me because she said at the end, she's like, hey, I think the Bible is too contradictory and you got to read through the lines. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that sounds a lot like that the Bible is actually a grimoire. and it would take, because okay, so when I was doing the grimoire research, I found out that a lot of the books are connected, so you need to know various other grimoires before you can decode the one that you're reading. And this is the case with the Armadel. So you have to be able to read the Armadel and Agrippa's occult philosophy, and then also another grimoire called the Heptameron.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay. So then I was like, well, what if the Bible is itself a grimoire that cannot be decoded unless you read all these other grimoires? And it was like that was everybody's stab at trying to pull it all together. That was just a thought that I had, something to toss around.
Oh, that could easily. I mean, there was stuff that I've even covered where, you know, I think understanding other people's, with the grimoires and like Athanasius Kircher and like some of those people I had mentioned with all those different ciphers, it's just like you have to like, it's almost as if you do need conjunctions of things to sometimes understand something fully.
Yeah, you
like
have to.
You don't even know if it's in a cipher or not. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's just, I do think there's like what you're getting at. Like you do need other prior works to even understand how to do something else.
Yeah, because I mean, you're getting this stuff from other occultists that lived in a different time, had a different point of view, and I think they were all just trying to connect the dots. And then you have everybody who spent their whole life working on one grimoire, right? So it just makes sense to me. So I just find it very similar to the study of occult grimoires. For example, to understand the Armadel, you have to read all the other ones, which is to me, that's just very interesting. It's almost like it was the first grimoire, you know, the Bible is. A lot of occultists, when they're first getting started, they don't realize how that Bible is going to come full circle right down on your head once you start getting deeper into the occult and you actually start practicing ceremonial magic, because then that is going to require the study of all the previous grimoires from the Renaissance era when it was in its heyday. And so it's all like just super connected.
Well, I would even say, you know, that's, you're going back to Crowley, and that, you know, constantly trying to promote the guy, but I think in a lot of his books, sometimes in the beginnings, like even like on his like little Libra books, some of his smaller ones, that I like Libra O, which I think is just purely like, you know, just the rituals that are in there. He will even tell you, I think, like prior, like after already knowing this and that and that and this, there's multiple times, or he'll even like reference to after having the understanding of this, then this shit would be done. So like there is even oftentimes, even in his own stuff, that he does reference back that like, only until you understand and have the idea of this back stuff or this back work or these other things,
back speech,
could you even do you even have an understanding of what the hell you're actually doing right now?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do get that for sure.
Yeah, it won't come full circle until you have a basis. Your foundation that you need to know is going back, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of years. Okay, so also I know it. I wanted to say that I know that the Bible doesn't fit the classical definition of a grimoire, but I think it might be a form of one that's just been mistranslated, butchered over time. But I think there's something to it. I mean, I even think like Isaac Newton at one point, he was trying to create some sort of cipher to decode the Bible and find its hidden secrets, right?
I think
so.
Yes.
He made some connections there that not everybody did of that time. Right, so he was
associated. You know who he's associated with? Somebody that I'm about to cover too. It's be really interesting. And I was just like, the guy's name too. I was just like, what's the fucking odds? This guy, Michael Meyer. Have you ever heard of him?
I think I have. Yes, I don't know any details though, but I remember reading that going, okay, Michael Meyer.
Huge influence in a lot of shit.
I believe it.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple of links to things that I came across, and you'll probably be like, oh wow, just from looking at those basic links that I'll send you. Yeah. So I forgot where I was going with that. Oh fuck, sorry.
No, you're good. I was also gonna say that I also came across a theory when studying this grimoire. that says it's designed to be used for magicians to use these sigils to come up with their own rituals. Somebody thought that that's what this was, that they could use these sigils but then come up with your own practice, which eventually you do once you get past a certain point in ritual magic. You start adding shit to, adding things to your own rituals in addition to what you've learned. And I already started doing this because I put sacred geometry in my stuff, like sacred geometry visualizations with my ceremonial magic work. And so I find this, highly interesting, and I think that it's definitely possible. I think you could take any of the stuff that you get and then change it. I mean, if you think about it, that's what all the occultists for several generations did.
Yeah.
They took what they learned and they made their own. I mean, look at the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They're the ones that came up with the middle pillar, right?
Yeah.
That's not older. That's fairly new, right? So it's like in the vein of that, to kind of get some more info on that. Okay, so I got quite a bit of notes here. I'll just kind of start going over theirs, and if there's anything you want to say, just interrupt.
Oh, I do think the one thing where I was going with Michael Meyer too is that he was an occultist, and he, like I said, he was they even think like he was hugely influential with the Rosicrucians and this and that. He was corresponding and like talking to somebody who was actually, if I remember correctly, was in charge of how the King James version of the Bible was going to be translated.
Holy shit.
So it's like, and then you're talking about like magical grimoires and shit. Who knows?
Well, that just kind of...
that guy's like, he's famous for like, he has these engravings. It's almost like, to tell you the truth, it reminds me very much of like Ninth Gate-ish type shit, where he had these engravings that came with music that could have been played with it.
What?
I think like he literally, they've even said if you were to look at his book and go by like the way it was supposed to be and did it the way it was supposed to be, it was technically almost like multimedia at the time. But you had to play the music yourself that went along with the picture, that had even the scripture that was supposed to be like little keys and ideas of like, what was this picture showing you in alchemy and the occult.
Wow.
Like this dude was fucking deep as shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
and he was corresponding with
go down
somebody who
that.
was, translating the Bible for King James.
I'd like to go down that rabbit hole. I mean, just saying.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
all these Michael Myers movies, are they like spawned off of like some occult idea, occultist?
Oh, probably.
Because I definitely do think Michael Myers is definitely a very occult archetype, in my opinion.
I can see that.
You know what's funny? I've always I covered him one time for I'm sorry, then I'll let you get going. I covered him one time for the Beasts of Horror. It was 2 Halloweens ago. I covered him and Freddy, and I was saying how I very much thought that I did more of a case for Freddy, and that was only because I fucked up and left out some of my notes. But I did have a good case that I think that Michael Myers and Freddy have a lot of Janus or beast-like symbolism, and they had a lot of symbolism that would fall on Crowley's line number 2 and line 17. And when I went out to this is fucking weird. When I went out to Salem recently, and I still have to finish editing and make it and put it out, there was a Michael Myers in the street, and it was like, I think I might have been even going live, and I think I had my wife hold the camera, and like I just like went up and like let him cut my neck real quick, and then I went back to like filming and live in Salem. After going back and looking at the footage, this is so fucking bizarre. He was standing under, like, the number for like the address of the building was 217.
No shit.
And I even called him like the motherfucking beast or some shit like that. I was like, Michael Myers is the motherfucking beast right here. And then after the fact, I'm looking at the line, I'm like, that's the numbers that I was pointing to like represent beast numerology as well. And I was like, what the fuck was the odds of that? Did he know? Like, what? Was just weird. Know. I was like, or is that just like the Matrix, like the code to the Matrix? Like, I don't know. It's just like, because of what he was representing, he stopped there under 217. Yeah, and I was like showing lines, line 2 and line 17 for being, it's just fucking weird.
That's a synchronicity for you. That's the shit that happens to magicians, right?
It was
That
fucking
shit
bizarre.
happens to
I
me
was like, yo,
all the
Michael
fucking time.
Myers under 217. And like a straight blade is like a symbol for 17, and he's like cutting my neck with a fucking, blade and shit. It was just, I was just like, come on.
That's wild, man. I like it though.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
cool.
so you go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so I got a lot of information from this article that I read. I don't want to take credit for it, you guys. I wish I could. This guy's an awesome writer, but apparently he's a ceremonial magician. He was a former member of the OTO. He's a Gnostic priest. His name is Frater Barabbas, I think it is. And I came across a gold mine when I found this information about this. So another grimoire that might be considered similar to the Grimoire of the Armadel would be the Notary Art of Solomon, or the Ars Notaria. It is called. It was supposed to be the 5th book of La Megaton, Lesser Key of Solomon, but it's usually excluded because no version or published book has been able to capture the incredibly intricate, beautifully illuminated characters and sigils that fill up whole pages from the calligraphy of various strange words of invocation. The purpose of these words of invocation and notary device was to assist the wielder to acquire certain spiritual and occult knowledge directly without the outer apparatus of learning. It would seem then that this grimoire, which would be of the same class of grimoires as the Armadel, both manuscripts claim to instruct and assist the operator in a form of magic that would powerfully impact his mind, revealing hidden and occultic wisdom. Thus, they were grimoires of the art of disposition.
And you said the Ars Notoria, right? Mm-hmm. That was the book that I posted that I had that shit in my hands. The one that I probably posted on Instagram. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I think I sent. Yeah, and I sent you. Didn't I send you? Did I send you the pictures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I sent you all that shit to check out. Yeah, that was that book.
Yes.
That's wild, man. Yeah, and they're totally right. There are pages where it is just complete like artwork.
Yes, and it was all in different colors too. So it was like red and green.
Yes, I was.
The sigils are written in red and green.
You know what's so funny? I even kept note while I was there. I have it in some book of I do think even the colors in sentences, only certain letters were certain colors when they started off the sentence, and only if an S started off the sentence, it was only a certain color. If a C did, I realized that they were never a different color. They were always the same color. It was just I did notice I definitely think there's something up with the different penning with that guy.
Yes, color symbolism for sure. That's very noted in the occult world. Color symbolism, numerology, gematria, all that stuff. Yeah, that's super interesting.
If you're an occultist and you're gonna spend your time to do something artistic like that, you're gonna make it more of your craft. Why would you spend the time to constantly make every C blue unless there was a reason behind? I don't know. For me as an occultist, there's gonna be a reason for everything if you're gonna go through that much trouble. Yeah. Well, I mean. Yeah, because then unless you're trying to confuse people down the line. Imagine them studying our work from this time, 100 years from now. And we're like, yo, you're totally mind fucking the wrong shit. It's true, though. It's true, though. I think about that all the time. What if, because we're videoing ourselves, right? What if they pull this up 100 years from now and they're all trying to decode our shit? That would just be hilarious. Like we're trying to do now with all the Renaissance era grimoires and people, right? We're doing the same shit. I even thought sometimes when I'm just being blatantly honest and to the point, I'm I think sometimes people still think that that's some encoded thing. No. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? No, man, we don't have time for that shit, guys. I'm just telling you right now, we're not that on top of our shit. Yeah. Jesus. Okay, then he goes on to say the Grimoire of the Armadel also comes from this German tradition, but only a poor Latin and French edition was available to Mathers for translating, and much later after printing. So I'll say that again. It was originally in German, and then it was translated into Latin, and then into French. So what the hell do you think is going to happen there? Right? It's going to be incomplete.
So we can.
There's a lot of
into...
German grimoires and manuscripts.
Yes. Well, that was there. I remember reading somewhere that was like of some big headquarters over in Germany where like a lot of magicians went at that time to research certain things. A lot of writers were coming out of that area, Sweden, Italy, all those places over there.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that I've even noticed recently, like that I've covered. I haven't added it in because there's just more words that I can't pronounce. But like, there's like a lot of like old people that I cover that they'll have their name and then it's like now this is like their last name in German. And it's like, why was that so important? Like, even though they weren't from Germany. You know what I'm saying? And it's like something's up. Like you even had like a specific name like for Germans? I don't know. I just find that weird. Like why is there always? You don't normally see that when you're like going on like Wikipedia or like researching stuff. You're not gonna. They don't always show you the German equivalents of that last name. But with these old occultists from back in the day, it's like they always show you like the German equivalent of that last name. And I'm like, why was that so important back then? Something's up with Germany, for real.
Well, if you go back a little further in history to the Germanic times, when you had the Germanic tribes, right, the pagan tribes. I'm piecing things together in my head here.
Yeah, I think there's something up with that.
So around that time of like 1066 is when the Vikings conquered the English. And then they would take on the last names of their clansmen. So whoever was leading the battle, they would take on their last name. So maybe it has something to do with that. I'm probably going out on a limb here, but I'm just trying to figure out why that would be.
Better than I can come up with.
But yeah, I mean, that's how like a lot of our last names, our surnames now are from either our profession that we were way back when, before our ancestors came over on the boat, if you're from the U.S. So all that kind of leads back to it. A lot of people's last names were where they lived, and it was just a description of where they lived.
Yep.
So maybe there was something going on over there in that time period, and I think that's another reason why all the occultists back then traveled so often, because there was no other way. They didn't have the internet. They couldn't piece all this shit together like we can here, right? So they had to travel to be able to gain more knowledge, and I think that's why they were always on the go. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it was me, I would be going to every damn library I could think of. You know, I'd be living in those damn things.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going back to the Barnegat Library. They got
so envious of that, man.
They got the Voynich.
Envious.
Yo, they got the Voynich manuscript there. I couldn't believe that shit. And the crazy thing is, it's not listed as like the Voynich manuscript. It's listed as the Cipher manuscript. And like I stumbled upon it somehow that I found out that it was there. And I was like,
you didn't stumble upon it. That was meant to be.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shit. And then I think I found out like a few days before I was going for the Ars Notoria. I probably would have switched it out if I knew, but like they kind of want a few days notice before you show up. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like I made like a week notice, because then they actually like pull the book, they put it in a certain spot. Then when you come, it's a big elaborate thing. You got to show your ID. You can only there's like it's pretty interesting.
You need to sneak like a lapel camera or something in there for me, man, so I can go with you.
You know what I thought was so fucking crazy? They said in the rules that you could bring like a camera or like a camcorder. So I was like, all right, I brought my little one and I shut off the light on it. I was like, oh, this is great. I was like, I could probably like record myself going through the whole book. You know, I'll just stand up and go like that. And the guy's like, oh, does that take pictures or video? I was like, well, it does both. He's like, oh, you can't have video. He's like, you can't bring it in. And I was like, can I use my phone? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, can I take video of the book with my phone? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, what the And he's like, with the video camera, people are afraid that you might record them. I'm thinking in my head, well, when I'm recording the book, my phone's facing down, and that's how people know I'm not recording them. So when my camcorder's facing down, just like my fucking phone would be, obviously you'll realize I'm not recording you. I'm like, yo, this is so silly. But whatever. So, I mean, I used my phone and grabbed some clips, but if I could have brought the camera in, I was going to try to literally record the whole book, like page by page, because it's actually not that big.
Yeah.
Oh, but whatever. I would have gone to see the Voynich first before the Ars Notoria. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, it's called like the Cipher manuscript there in their library. Yeah. It's not called the Voynich. It's called the Cipher.
Wow.
Which is very weird because I do think that like I had mentioned before, the Golden Dawn even has their own cipher manuscript.
I believe it. And, you know, I was also thinking some of this stuff, some of these, like what we're looking at right now, they look a lot like the witch's alphabet.
Mm.
And me and Nix were actually talking about this probably like a few weeks back because she went on this ghost hunt and she took some pictures and it was in some weird sigils and she showed them to me and it took me about 20 minutes, but I figured it out. It was actually the witch's alphabet.
Oh, wow.
So it was adopted by Wiccans, and then they modified it a little bit over time, but they basically took it from High Magic.
Oh, so. Yeah. You know, there was somebody that I had covered. I don't know if it was Johannes Trithemius or somebody who they created, yes, the witch's alphabet that eventually Wicca ended up taking and kind of like, you know, churching up their own way, I guess, in a sense.
Yep. And then eventually figured out that the people that run that place, she's Wiccan. And I was like, there you go. That's what she was trying to do. She was trying to attempt. I think what she was doing was trying to attempt to trap the ghost, which I think is all kinds of fucked up. But
no, they can just keep
people
doing
don't know what they're
doing.
doing.
Yeah.
People don't know what they're doing. Unfortunately, if you guys don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Fuck, man. Because you never know what you're doing. I mean, one little squiggle wrong, and you got a fucking demon hanging out with you. You know what I mean?
It's just raw energy you don't want to deal with.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Too much. It gets too bad.
I say it that way so that I can get people's attention.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a really good
mean
point,
that,
though. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, though.
But you know, I don't literally mean that. But you never know what you're fucking with. And then he goes on to say we can hopefully anticipate the eventual discovery and publishing of a more fresh translation from a currently unknown German version. However, few have ever gazed upon the sigils and characters found in the Grimoire of the Armadel and not be marveled by them. Even though the ritual lore to activate them is extremely sparse, there seems to be no way to actually use any of the sigils and characters without recourse or other materials. The Grimoire Armadel probably has its origins in the late 17th to early 18th century and represents the last flowering of this tradition of writing grimoires like this one. And then he says Owen Davies, in his book Grimoires, A History of Magic Books, page 97, has speculated that the Armadel's manuscript may have been part of a collection of hundreds of confiscated magical books held for safekeeping by the Lieutenant General of the Paris Police Force, Marc-René de Voyer d'Argenson, who was investigating the massive occurrence of occult fraud in Paris in the early 18th century. So apparently there was some fucking yahoos going around trying to like get money by faking this shit.
Yo, the only thing that I had very little, and that's why like when you told me you had a bunch of notes, I was like, I'll just let you cover this book. Because I didn't have much to say. Actually, in the Armadel, the Mathers version, there is like an introduction by like Francis King, and I had pulled some stuff out of that. It was very basic, but he even states in there, he's like, as long as there's like people searching for this shit, there's going to be some asshole basically making fake stuff to sell it to also.
Fucking, can you imagine? It's like they misprinted one fucking page and you're sitting there doing that shit for months on end, wondering why it ain't fucking working out.
Yeah, no, but they even, you know, people have even been saying that for a long time. There are some ones out there that they actually believe were just fake, that probably a real magician sold to some rich fuck and was like, I'm just going to give them whatever. I'm just going to give them whatever because they're not going to understand this shit anyway. And, it gets considered like, oh, this is fucking legit. And it's like, no, it wasn't actually.
They're not going to fucking try and practice it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they just wanted to be like, oh, look at this.
Oh,
I got the power.
I got this. Look at this awesome book I have. And just like show it at fucking parties and shit.
Yeah.
Fucking. Okay. So these grimoires found their way into the library of his grandson, Marc-René, 3rd Marquis d'Argenson, whose huge collection of books was purchased by the king's brother, the Count of Artois, in 1785 and became part of the famous Bibliothèque Arsenal of Paris. Eventually, the grimoire was discovered languishingly in the manuscript collection over a century later by Mathers. So he discovered it, who immediately saw its value and translated it. So an examination of the Grimoire of the Armadel shows that it suffers from some disorganization since the chapters follow no observable order. So in fact, the title page is the original manuscript is at the end instead of the beginning, leading some to speculate that perhaps the book was written from back to front. However, the order of chapters for the first two chapter groups is not important, since each of them can stand alone with their associated spirit name and sigil, offering revelations and visions in their use. That titles consist of words theosophy, sacro-mystic theology, and Kabbalistic light, obviously characterizing the presentation of the arcane occult knowledge associated with various mysteries of the Bible. Most of the chapters are concerned with highly obscure Old Testament mysteries, but there are some New Testament mysteries presented as well. That was another thing that tipped me off about the Bible. Right there. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then what I'm going to talk about now is interesting because I got this from a Curious Christian website. Okay? I find it a little comical. But
Curious Christian, I guess. Yes. So this is, a lot of people have said about this book that it is highly Christianized, and it is. There was a point, within the kind of like the magic community, the occultist community, people were trying to tie occultism and Catholicism together. Or the Bible. They were trying to like show, like, and say, like, there's a deeper meaning to this shit.
There is.
I know, but like back then, it wasn't like it was like accepted, and it's like all of a sudden, what happened now? Like people are like, oh no, what are you, crazy? Take it for face value. You know what I'm just saying? It's like, what the fuck?
No. I get what you're saying. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But yeah, I found this really interesting. It says, for all this Christian influence, the Grimoire of Armadel clearly draws on a wide variety of non-Christian traditions. It references spirits associated with the 10 Sephiro, the Jewish Kabbalah, the first 9 Hebrew letters, and the Olympic spirits of the Arbatel, and the 4 of the planetary archangels found in Agrippa's occult philosophy. It references both archangels, infernal princes, and possibly even goetic demons, the former presumably being used to control the latter. The Grimoire of Armadel is a most obscure text. Unlike many other grimoires, there is only one known manuscript copy in the world, which is kept at the Bibliothèque Arsenal in Paris. The manuscript, written in Latin and French, was probably produced in the early 18th century. Scrutiny of the manuscript suggests it was originally composed in German, since that appears to be some words and terms that are poorly translated from the language into French. It was translated by Englishman Samuel Mathers, and occult scholar and founder of the Golden Dawn. Okay, so that's the end of that. Then I came across another copy of this, because you sent me the PDF, right? Uh-huh. And so I was looking, and then I opened up a new tab, and I just searched it again, and I like to look at different browsers. So I will use Yahoo, I'll use Bing.
Oh, okay.
I'll use all the different ones, because sometimes I found that, like, when doing my research that...
Oh, you'll get different hits.
Yes, you'll get different stuff. So I found another version of this, and there was another guy named Frater Alistair who said this about it. It says, the grimoire was first translated by MacGregor Mathers into English, now for the first time in English one, Frater Alistair, rendering it to an HTML format. When Mathers made his translation, he noticed that the title page was the last page of the grimoire, so he moved it to the front, but kept the rest of the chapters in some order. He also noticed that the grimoire began speaking about a magic circle, like there was something that the reader should already know. And that's another thing I noticed, too, was like, these grimoires already expect you to have a foundational knowledge. That's why they make fucking no sense and look like fucking gibberish to the average layman. Because you have to have that prior knowledge to understand what they're talking about to begin with. Then you have to reference several other grimoires to know what the fuck's really going on.
Yeah, I wonder,
right?
like, I mean, I don't know if it would have been more unusual for people to be looking for that stuff back then too. Like, the reason why I'm saying that is, like, if you have that stuff in your hands, you maybe, like, it should be expected. By the time you own something like this, you better know what the fuck you're doing already.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just assuming. Right. If you've come across this, you should.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about the train, you guys. I got a train. I live right next to train tracks. But yeah, but for sure. I 100% agree with you there. Now he goes on to say, it is my belief that the whole grimoire was written backward. The fuck? I read that, I was like, what? Written backwards?
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
That is to say that you should read the last page first, which is the title page, then the last chapter, and so on. If you read it this way, you will see that that makes a lot of sense. In Mathers' version, the first chapter is a reference to the magic circle and the license to depart. So what confused him was, why would you have the license to depart in the beginning instead of the end? But then I started thinking about it in a logic way, and I figured out, okay, well, you're going to read the whole book to get all the information, and then you're going to figure out the license to depart, right? Everybody should know that anyway. So it doesn't really matter which, either you know it or you don't, right? So I guess that part, it wouldn't really matter if you had it before or after all the information, because you're going to do that anyway. That just kind of goes back to that, that you have to have a basic knowledge. Yes. It made no sense to begin the grimoire that way, since the license to depart is the last thing the magician should read. Also, if you follow the Latin titles in the Mathers version, the text begins with Sanhedrin, Jesus, and go on to the creation of Adam and the demons and the angels, etc. This order is completely the opposite of the one that the Bible, that one on the Bible, this is God first, and then the angels, and then the demons, then Adam, then Jesus, then the crucifixion, and then Sanhedrin. So, neither to say, I had inverted the orders of the chapters in Mather's version, under the believing that this is the way it should be read. So he flipped it around the way he thought it should be read.
It's backwards, basically,
yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to read this last paragraph, because I'm going to pull this all together, and we're going to have a recap here.
Okay.
Okay. So, the Grimoire of Armadel is a very peculiar, I'm all tongue-tied today, manuscript of ceremonial magic. An analysis of its various chapter components has revealed that the operational sequence was deliberately made obscure. This grimoire requires the knowledge of the use of other grimoires, most notably the Heptameron, Agrippa's Occult Philosophy, and the Armadel. The key to operationally using this grimoire requires reestablishing the operational sequence and also performing classical invocations of the various spirits before performing the sigil character operations. So the art of the Armadel appears to be a system of magic that assists the operator in acquiring visions, insights, occult knowledge, wisdom, and ultimately spiritual enlightenment. It is a system of magic that can be found in other systems of magic where spiritual knowledge is considered more important and personally empowering than material powers and achievements. So we've all been through that stage, when you first get started, we do it because we think we're going to get something out of it, right? Material gain. Then the further along you get, depending on how serious you are, you start doing it for spiritual enlightenment. Yeah. And then that other stuff is just a side effect.
Side effect, yeah. That's a really good way to say it.
Yep.
I think if you work on spiritual gain, whatever you need will be there.
Yes. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I mean, it took me a while, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I came from a low magic foundation, right? I did low magic for fucking years. And then once you go down that path a certain way, you figure out that the material gain isn't what needs to be sought after. Once you figure that out, it's like it all just fucking falls into place like puzzle pieces.
You'd be like, oh fuck, that wanting that material gain was one of the problems. Like, damn it.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So hopefully this helps you guys out there that got off your armchair and you're gonna do it. Eventually it'll come full circle again.
You know something I did want to also add real quick about what we were saying again, not to beat a dead horse here, but having prior knowledge. I think this is actually a good example, this book, even the Armadel. If you're making these sigils and you're making these talismans and you're using these things, normally, from my experience, and probably for you, that is like the ending point of your ritual, that you are going to finally start charging this talisman and start doing whatever you're doing with it in your ritual. These books don't have the ritual. It's not telling you what ritual to do. It's just showing. Yeah. So it's like you would have to even know the rituals prior to even charging these talismans that you can make with these books. So just the fact that that part is not even in there, I think is more proof is that you should be understanding of other stuff prior to even using them. This is add-ons to what you know already.
Exactly. And this one I also read, and I can't believe I didn't get the notes for that. I also read that there are 2 more spirits in this book than there is with the Armadel. Because remember, you have your Olympic spirit sigils. Well, this one has 2. And get this, one of them is associated with Jesus himself. Oh, wow. I think it's Caphael. This one right here. The one you have up on the page.
Oh, shit, you look at that one. Right there.
I looked at it.
Oh, it's got crosses too in it, yeah.
That's it. So that one is associated with Jesus himself.
Oh, let me see if I can go back and find an older one in the other book.
But yeah, I thought that was just super interesting.
Wow, what did I leave that one out? Oh, damn. Yeah, I must have. What's the odds? Another thing I thought was interesting with this book, too, is that it also went into archangels, which the Armadel did not really do. It's kind of stuck with planetary energies more.
No. And these sigils that you guys are seeing here, these ones are used a lot. Like, these, get to know these ones. These ones are, I see these fucking everywhere now. Everywhere I look, I see these damn things. Once you look at them, you see them everywhere. But
it's really easy to do.
I follow on TikTok. He does all of them and tells you what the angel, their name, how to pronounce their name, what they're used for, what their associations are, correspondences, all that stuff. But yeah, so when you're practicing high magic, you're invoking these. I mean, at least I invoke 8 when I'm doing it. So you're using these and having these sigils, fucking print them out, shit. I mean, use them, right? I love this stuff. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
And the reason why I even like showing these too is like, these aren't, I don't know, like maybe preaching to the choir with my show, but for maybe people who aren't that knowledgeable about this stuff, I don't think these designs would be like typical what people may think. Too, like the reason why I liked showing these last 2 books that we did is because like even the artistic style of the sigil work is probably stuff that's like, if that was even in your face, would you ever have noticed it?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at it. Like this one right here, Adonai. One of them had Agla. Like, these are the divine names that you vibrate when you're practicing your ritual magic, Ehie, Adonai, all this stuff. I think what these are also, these probably have the information to when to invoke them, what day and what time in them too, from me looking at them.
Oh, that could be. That's very good. Very well said. Was there anything else that you?
Nope. No, I that's it for now.
Okay. No,
I love doing this stuff, so just shoot them at me, man. And I'll do the research.
No, this was perfect too, because I even said, I was like, just like an hour episode, nothing too deep. For people that were listening, I would suggest to watch it, because as it was playing, as we were going, I was going through some of the slides. If we were to cover these slides, this would have turned into like a 3-hour show, and it would have been like more than I was trying to get at. Again, it wasn't so much to teach people, it's just more of like education to know, like, this is something out there that was, there was a reason why I guess Mathers, translated it. You must have been of importance. There might be something in here. These books might be onto something, and I just think that it shows different symbolism, different styles. For just things, gods, angels.
Yeah.
So
always get your info from multiple sources. Always.
I just think
I've always done that.
Just for the fact of pure symbolism, just showing you that
Yes.
there's occult symbolism out there that's probably many people don't even know it exists.
Oh, exactly.
One quick
Yes.
thing I do want to add, maybe if I can find the link, I'll add it to the bottom. I would have loved to have covered it myself, but I've added it into this, but really it would have been totally stealing it from somebody else, because I would have never probably came up with this on my own. But there was, I think it might be the Baker cipher or something. There's this cipher that looks like a tic-tac-toe thing, kind of.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes. You remember that I found some guy on YouTube that actually shows you how if you take the Hebrew, now this would make sense almost with going backwards now, because Hebrew is written backwards.
Yeah.
If you were to take the Hebrew of these words and put it into the Ike Baker, I think, it actually creates the sigils.
No shit.
Yeah, it's because they're all, if you think about it, it's basically a tic-tac-toe sign. So it's all going to just be lines like that. And that's all the Armadel basically is. All those sigils, they all look very almost like circuit boardish. He shows how, if you actually take those names and put them in, I think, backwards in Hebrew into the Akbake or whatever cipher, you are actually getting the designs that created those sigils. And I was like, holy fuck. That blew me away. So that kind of goes along with possibly going backwards in that book, possibly.
That makes sense. And then another thing hit me when I was reading the Armadel that I forgot to mention last time was what if those lines, how there's multiple lines, what if those are dimensions? What if those are different dimensions?
Different slivers of time and space or something too.
Yeah, you're seeing it fucking 2D, but it's supposed to be visualized 3D.
Yes, I think a lot of occult symbolism, if you were to try to look at possibly of an idea of 3D put down on flat, onto paper, there was a lot of that. I think a lot of times, maybe we should be looking at something as looking down at it instead of thinking we're looking forward. Yep. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that.
Like a bird's eye view. Well, that's how you do your ritual magic until you get it memorized.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You got the fucking notes out. I was that way.
Yeah,
I used to lay that shit out on the floor, man, and read it as I did it.
That's so funny.
Until you get it memorized. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
You're right.
I mean, shit. Yeah. You start learning all that shit. There's no good way to do it but make yourself some notes. You got to make yourself some cheat notes. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
Cheaters.
Very true. How much time is spent in memorization and trying to understand? I forget
it's
about that.
It's a whole lifetime. Nobody has that kind of time anymore. That's why we don't have great shit like this anymore, because nobody has the time to sit there and do that shit.
It's true.
I mean,
the world we live in now, it's you kind of
let's just be honest. I mean, those motherfuckers were highly intelligent, and fucking most of them were geniuses because they knew about everything. They knew about astrology, numerology, everything, medicine. They were highly, highly, highly educated, and it's we're lacking in that.
Something went wrong. I don't know what happened. But thank you very much again, Megan, for coming on. That was welcome. A great time. I look forward to, like I said before, we're going to should hopefully be doing the Zodiacs. I know Mario had already said yes, and I love to do that too. And then we're going to be covering art for one of these saints. Which I think will be. And then actually after that, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but then I was thinking about possibly covering that art with Michael Myers. So,
okay.
I'll have to once I get to him. Let me know. Yeah, as we get along and complete other things, then I'll bring that one up and see about doing it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to.
Hell yeah, man! Right on.
A bunch.
Thanks for dragging me along.
Oh, for sure. No, this is great. No, especially for this stuff, it's I gotta have you on. You know what I'm saying? Thank you.
I know I don't know anybody in person that's a high magician. Sorry, I've never met one in person, ever.
Except for the OTO, unless they didn't tell me, I never met one personally.
Yeah. Me either. So we're far and few between. So it's cool that I get to hook up with you, man. Because
Definitely.
you get what I'm talking about. I get what you're talking about. It just melds really well.
Yes.
So I'm very appreciative of that, man.
Yeah, and the episode went really smooth, I thought. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So,
Anytime, man.
You want to plug your show and let everybody know where they can find your stuff again?
Yeah, guys. So I have my own YouTube channel. If you're into like the paranormal, magic, tarot, I go over all kinds of stuff in there. If you guys are interested in that, it's 7 Degrees of Wisdom 81. Nick will put the link down in the video if you guys are interested. I'm looking to grow my channel. I want to get it out to as many people as possible. My whole shtick on my channel is like break things down into bite-sized chunks for you and do all the legwork so that you don't have to do all the research that I did to come up with a video.
Yeah, so that is one thing I would like to definitely say, for people that, listening to my stuff or into my stuff, if you go to her channel, you'll get like 15, 20-minute, half-hour bite-sized chunks instead of having to listen to such a long normal episode on mine. And I actually, to be totally honest with you, you're probably doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying? But it's much easier to just, if you're interested in things, you can go over there and get a really good idea on that one specific idea and topic in 20, 30 minutes. And I think it's great.
Well, I created the channel that I wanted, correct?
Yeah.
Because I've spent countless hours and my time like doing research on all this shit, and it took me forever, years. Well, I wanted a channel where I could just type in something and there I am and I have it, and somebody's going through it. I mean, that was my whole idea, and I also did it for my clients too. Because I, refer my clients to do, a lot of different things on there.
Oh no, I could see that because it is very informative, or it's like kind of like bringing it to basics too, like a very good general understanding.
Exactly. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So if you guys want to check me out, it's 7 Degrees of Wisdom on TikTok. My picture for everything is all the same. So if you see a different picture, then it's not me. I don't know if I still have, copiers out there or not, but I haven't found any recently. But they're all going to have that same picture on my YouTube channel. So if you don't see that picture, it's not me.
Somebody else.
But yeah, you guys can find me social media and YouTube.
Awesome. Yes, and I'll make sure your YouTube is in the bottom. And I'm going
Sweet,
to
man.
add
Thank
that
you.
to all the other. That is another thing. If you haven't seen the Tarot series, please check that out. Me and Mario and Megan did that. That was a killer, eye-opening series. Very enlightening.
Yes.
Yeah, so go check that out. And she's been on plenty of other things with me as well. So,
yep. Looking forward to more.
Yes, hell yeah, definitely. And thank you very much. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.
Later.